Welcome to another edition of Necessary Roughness. My name is Keaton. Thank you all for joining me here. We're going to go ahead and dive in right off the bat. I'm going to change it up a little bit this week. We're going to go right into QB Sneak. If you have not caught on to any of the Necessary Roughness shows to this point, it's basically a top 5 ranking of the NFL quarterbacks to date. So through week 8 going into week 9, I'm going to give you my top 5. I'll kind of give you reasons why, and we'll go from there. But at number 1, I have Matthew Stafford. The Rams are cooking. It's very simply put. The Rams are cooking. They are doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're doing a lot of the things that we thought they would, despite the fact that they lost their number 1 running back. Didn't really get Deshaun Jackson in the mix the way they wanted to, and he has since been released. But despite all of that, of course, I mean, we're continuing to see the growth and overall maturity of Sean McVay as a play caller, as a head coach. And I think that's really starting to blossom now that he has a confident quarterback under center in Matthew Stafford. And that's why Matthew Stafford sits number 1 for me. Number 2 is Tom Brady. I understand he lost this week, right? His outing against the Saints was not overly spectacular. And it is what it is. But for me, Tom Brady is still Tom Brady. He's still, at the end of the day, is the epitome of consistency. The team around him may fail him at times, but at the end, again, it comes down to this guy is just overly consistent. He's fantastic. He shows up, all-time legendary guy. It would be pretty hard for him to fall out of my top 5, regardless of what happens at this point. Just because of who he is as a player, as a mentor for the players that he plays with. And ultimately, I mean, he actually currently is top 2 in QBR in the league right now. With all of that said, he has also taken almost twice as many sacks as Matthew Stafford has as well. So that does play a part in why he remains 2 for me. That really is very important. From there, we go to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers this year has been fantastic, although we don't necessarily see the amount of touchdowns that some of these other guys are seeing from Rodgers so far. You know, guys like Joe Burrow, Mahomes, even Prescott having missed a game are all in that same vicinity of where Aaron Rodgers is right now. But there's several guys that are higher. And then that may be surprising for where they are, but again, the Packers are winning, and a big part of that, of course, as always, is Aaron Rodgers. It really doesn't look like he's missed much, missing the entire offseason. We would have thought that he would have come in and maybe been a little slow. And of course, after week 1, I think all of us probably were starting to feel that way. But obviously, time tells the true story, and time is reminding us of who Aaron Rodgers is at this point, and there's really not much to be worried about when it comes to him. Number 4, that is Kyler Murray for me. Kyler Murray, yes, I understand that they lost to Aaron Rodgers' Packers. That was nowhere near his fault, by the way, if you watch that game. Came down to a last pitch to the end zone, and AJ Green apparently forgot that he is supposed to be a big-bodied, big-play receiver, and forgot what a comeback was. Completely didn't even look for it, was staring at the back of the end zone instead of turning his head. The corner played better receiver at that point in time, and that is what it is. To me, that does not diminish anything that Kyler Murray does. It does not take him out of the MVP race. It doesn't take him out of any of these statistical high-level achievements that he's in line for at this point. So there's really nothing for me that I'm going to pin on him at this particular moment. Number 5, the last one on the list is, of course, Josh Allen. Josh Allen is playing ridiculous football, pretty much as he has the last couple of years. But and honestly, had Dak Prescott played last week, I might have changed that. That's not a slight on Josh Allen. That's just, I think Dak is having a fantastic year. Dallas overall is having a fantastic year. So I think that is important. It's also, important to note that had Russell Wilson not been hurt, obviously that is also a situation where we would have some tough calls to make there. I do want to, give some highlights to a couple of guys, though, some honorable mentions, if you will. Jameis Winston, man, my heart goes out to that guy getting his ACL torn, MCL also hurt. That is a rough deal on a play that frankly did not have to happen that way. This is part of the playing to the whistle and then stopping that the NFL is still trying to explain and teach people, even though we learn this playing peewee football at a very young age now. Guys still just, the emotions run high and they cannot just, cut it off. So, it's unfortunately part of this business. I want to shout Jameis out in particular because he is top 5 in QBR as well. He has 14 touchdowns and 3 interceptions on the year, 1,100 yards. No, he is not putting up crazy yards. He is playing within the Drew Brees style of system. And also keep in mind, they don't have a receiver that probably would make hardly any other NFL rosters across the board, at least not at their positions, at least not at receiver in particular, right? So it's frustrating to see that happen to a guy like that, a guy who seems to be kind of repositioning his career a little bit better. Really hope that he gets back to action soon. Ryan Tannehill is also an honorable mention for me here. No, not a big touchdown thrower, has more picks than some guys. But the reason I want to mention him is because as we go, right now, I believe he was at number 9 for me if I had gone beyond 5. And I'm mentioning him now because I feel like he has a chance here to either rise significantly in my QB sneak rankings or fall significantly. Obviously, Derrick Henry is out for the year after foot surgery. So now is either the time that Ryan Tannehill really takes the reins of the Titans franchise, particularly this week against the Rams, or he falls on his face. And we see that truly this is a Derrick Henry team. And without Derrick Henry, there's nothing, not much to say there. I do lastly want to mention Derek Carr, simply because I think he's having a absolutely amazing year for himself. He's doing very well for that team, not making as many turnovers. Yes, there are not as many big time plays, but he certainly is doing a heck of a job for Vegas at this point, which leaves me also, I do want to mention before we get any further, that my heart goes out to the people impacted through the Henry Ruggs crash on Tuesday. That was I will admit I'm not fully up to date on all of the happenings and things there, all the underlying details. I do know that there was a fatality involved, so we certainly primarily go out to the family members of that individual. It's a big deal, and it's really tough to go through stuff like that. So really, really wanting to hit that. As far as Henry Ruggs, we have no idea what his involvement really truly was. I believe that the Raiders and the Las Vegas Police Department are investigating all of that stuff, so we should find out fairly soon. And depending on his involvement will depend whether what his future as an NFL player looks like. But at this point in time, that is far less important than the other particular details of that event. Moving on beyond that, I do want to get to one of my favorite parts of the show, if not my favorite, and that is what I like to call upset alert. So what that essentially is, again, if you haven't listened to the show, watched the show, or anything like that, it is essentially a rundown of the 5 most likely games where the underdog will, in fact, have a good chance to win this week. This week being week 9, of course. I will give you the top 5. These 5 are in no particular order. I will try to give you a rough explanation of kind of why, the underlying details there. and we'll go from there. Now, I do also want to highlight, as I always do, this is not betting advice. I surprisingly have done fairly well with this, but obviously it's very unlikely that each week you'll be able to predict with relevant accuracy 5 games each week where an underdog will win. It's a very small chance that 5 underdogs will win anywhere. So at least significant underdogs. I will preface again, I don't, if a game's even, if a game's within 3 for the home opponent, I don't get that I don't do those unless I absolutely have to, just because there's not any other options. Because at the end of the day, that doesn't count. That's not really much to talk about. So you won't be getting that here. And again, the lines on these games are as of Tuesday night, which is obviously the recording here. So we will start with number 1. This is Thursday Night Football. Jets are visiting the Colts on Fox. This is the Colts have kind of caught fire a little bit, right? They're kind of coming on. We're seeing a little bit better production from Wentz, a little less sporadic behavior. And by the way, Michael Pittman Jr. is a freak, an absolute freak. He is turning into a number 1 receiver in front of our eyes. It's a very big deal. I really liked him as a big bodied guy coming out of USC, but again, sometimes big guys don't necessarily translate. Well, he seems to be doing just fine in that department. Right now, the line is 10.5. Now, no, I'm not telling you to go bet on Mike White to do what he did last week. Please do not do that. But what I will say is you did see a bit of a rejuvenation when another guy is in that position. Zach Wilson came in guns a-blazing and really kind of messed up the mojo of that franchise a bit because of how many turnovers. I mean, we're seeing this even, and I'll talk about this here to close out the show here in a little bit, but with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, the amount of turnovers that you're experiencing really is incredibly disheartening each and every time the offense comes out in the field. And then what you have is your defense is incredibly tired. They're exhausted. They're frustrated because they are having to play over half the game at best because the offense just is hosed. I mean, from the get-go, they're hosed because of turnovers. So the reason, again, I can see this is because the Colts seem to be riding high, but we haven't seen this long-standing success from Carson Wentz where he's able to go long, consistent stretches and be overly successful. That dates back to him in Philly. He struggled to be consistent. He struggled to provide a consistent juice for a franchise and be an overly reliable player, other than of course, the year they won the Super Bowl when he got hurt and didn't play in the playoffs. So the line right now is 10.5. Of course, like I said, I think that the Jets have a chance to. I mean, I feel like the Jets, honestly, if I were betting this game, I would bet the under on that. I would bet the Jets come within 10.5, but I'm gonna go with that as my number 1 upset alert because I think again the Jets kind of did get a bit of a rejuvenation. They also traded for Laurent Duvernay-Tardif from the Chiefs. That will stabilize that offensive line a little bit more, which is really good. And by the way, Michael Carter is looking really good out of the backfield for that team. Very universal, very just all-out weapon, and I think that's really going to help them too. Moving on from there, I'm going to go down to Texans and Dolphins, that particular game at noon on Sunday in Miami. This is currently a 6.5 line in favor of Miami. The Texans are a tough out, man. And really, if I've been saying this all year, if it weren't for some very, very, very questionable, game situation coaching by David Coley, the Texans could be a 3 or 4 win team right now, especially if Tyrod Taylor had not gotten hurt. Now, Davis Mills has had some decent highs, but the consistency is obviously nowhere near where it needs to be there. Brandon Cooks is obviously having a fantastic year, and the Dolphins corners seem to have forgotten their role on defense from a week-to-week basis. So this is a real big situation where I could see, we've seen Davis Mills in a game or two this season really come out and let it fly and really put the Texans on his back and put up big points. That is something the Dolphins struggle to do. So I could sincerely see a situation here where the Texans take advantage of this matchup. The Dolphins are just kind of lost and really take advantage of that and could pull this thing out. But yeah, moving on to number 3 on my list, I have the Falcons and the Saints also at noon. This is currently a 6-point line in favor of the Saints. For me, let's not get hung up on what we saw from Trevor Siemian against Tampa Bay. Yes, that was incredibly shocking, especially given the offensive weaponry or lack thereof that New Orleans currently has. And we really don't know who technically is going to be the starter on Sunday. So that is yet to be seen. But I see this as a situation where, we're getting Matt Ryan in. If we don't know what the status is of Calvin Ridley, so that does play a part, obviously. Kyle Pitts is having, I won't say a spectacular year, but we're seeing the flashes of brilliance from him. But I really think this comes down to some experience. The only thing that scares me a little bit is obviously the Saints defense is incredibly tough. So I could really see that playing a big part in this, but I think this is a game right now. I mean, don't let the Saints record and things like that really fool you here. This is a very decent opportunity for the Falcons to pull one. They are currently 2-1 away, on the road, so that does play a decent part too. But yes, that is my fourth game, and last one on this list, certainly not least, is Monday Night Football. We have the Bears traveling to Pittsburgh. If you know me at all, or if you've listened to anything I have ever said ever on any of the platforms, any podcasts I've been on, I do not believe in the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have not for years, ever since the Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell exits. I cannot buy into what they're trying to sell me, and basically saying Ben Roethlisberger is the hero of the day. I just can't do it. Yes, this is in Pittsburgh. The Bears, though, particularly Justin Fields, obviously, again, if you listen to anything I've been saying, in my various podcasts throughout the offseason, Justin Fields was my favorite quarterback coming out of the draft. Still is to this day. I understand Mac Jones has had some success. That is very systematic success, by the way. Don't get me started on Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence. Trey Lance. Don't. But the reality here is Justin Fields is definitely the best athlete of that group right now starting. And I think we saw that last week. He made some despite the fact that his offensive line is garbage. In receiving crew, I'd take her to leave it, running backs, they're a little banged up there right now. But there's going to come a point where Justin Fields, the light bulb just kind of clicks. And you go from being just an ultimate weapon offensively to being a ultimate quarterback. And I truly believe that will still happen for him. And I could really see that happening here. This is not necessarily a make it or break it game for him. So it does alleviate some pressure. You do have that Pittsburgh front seven to kind of contend with. But if the scheming's right, if they do their due diligence, that Bears defense should be able to control that Pittsburgh offense well enough. I think this is a legitimate shot where the Bears can actually pull this thing off and take it from Pittsburgh. I do want to, again, highlight an honorable mention here. I'll give you one, and that is Sunday Night Football. This is a game we highlighted a little bit earlier with Ryan Tannehill and the Derrick Henry situation. The current line is Rams 7.5, and this is in Inglewood. I do see a shot here again. If Tannehill does in fact take advantage of this opportunity, I could see a decent chance here where the Titans could pull this thing off. Am I saying that it's incredibly likely? No. And again, I am not trying to give you betting advice. I'm simply suggesting this is a opportunity for the Titans that kind of works out. They did sign Adrian Peterson. Please don't assume that that's going to, just take off like a rocket ship. Please don't bet on that. So just something to keep your eyes on. You may see a different version of Tannehill, and that may be a bad thing, maybe a decent thing. I really don't know. We're going to have to see this. Derrick Henry has been a staple of consistency for that team, and we're going to get to see what it looks like without him. But I do kind of want to move into a couple things moving into week 9 here as well. I'll highlight a couple matchups I'm really excited to see. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to end with the Chiefs Packers because I will admit I'm incredibly ingrained in the Kansas City Chiefs. I live in Kansas City, from the area, grew up around the area. So while I do my best to be unbiased, and you will quickly figure that out when I start talking about the Chiefs in week 9, you will catch some. I'm a little more into it. I can get into this stuff. I up until recently hosted a podcast called Go Run a Route with Byron Smith. He is currently one of the feature writers for Fansided. And he and I, as we would call it, even though it was an NFL podcast, would get straight into a Chiefs topic, and that would take us just way beyond everything else we had planned to talk about. So that's why I'm going to end with that in this particular case. But I'm kind of interested to see the Browns and Bengals, right? The Bengals are coming off a incredibly just shocking loss to the Jets. The Browns have been beaten up big time. Baker he's banged up. We don't really know what we're going to get there. The running game has not been quite as effective. Meanwhile, Joe Burrow has been positioning himself to be at least on the edge of an MVP conversation from week to week. And Jamar Chase may be well on to a offensive player of the year award or offensive rookie, of the year award. So a big game right now. It's Cincinnati 2.5. I don't really know what to take away from that. I can't really tell you who's going to win there. I want to see, are the Browns going to get themselves right, or are the Bengals going to further push themselves away from the middle of the pack there? One game I do want to watch too, or keep an eye on for everybody, which I think this is kind of interesting, right? Is the Raiders visiting the Giants. This is currently in Las Vegas's favor by 2.5. I'm not sure what the heck's going on there. I understand that there's some morale concerns, obviously, going into this now with Henry Ruggs in that situation. But Henry Ruggs he had 469 yards on the season. I get all that, but 2 touchdowns. Like, I'm not really. We can find guys to get chunk yards. That's not the problem. Scoring touchdowns is your primary concern, and that plays a huge part. So I'm not necessarily worried about the Raiders and being able to, essentially replace that production. No, maybe it's not exactly the same, but let's not make this more than what it is, right? So that is a game I want to see, because I think that the Raiders could really take advantage of that opportunity. We saw the Giants kind of go toe to toe with the Chiefs, and again, I'm going to try my best not to get into the Chiefs stuff right this minute. But to me, that doesn't say anything about the Giants. It says a heck of a lot more about the Chiefs. So just something to keep in the back of your mind there. I'm interested in the Patriots and Panthers here, right? New England is favored by 4, but I want to see what version of Sam Darnold we get in this game. I really want to see what version. Are we going to get the loosey goose, or are we going to get the Mr. Consistency, just get the points type guy? The guy that led the league in rushing touchdowns through, 3 weeks? Like, I want to see which one we're going to get. Yes, I know Bill Belichick has a knack for shutting some things down that other teams try to do. That's all well and good because on a very good day, Sam Darnold is very, very good at managing the situations that are placed in front of him. So I really think that could be a positive situation for Sam Darnold. On the flip side, the Patriots obviously know a lot about Sam Darnold. They don't know a lot about this version of Sam Darnold, though. So again, it kind of depends on which version you're going to see on Sunday, and that will kind of set the tone for it. Really, other than that, I do want to see, I want to keep an eye on the Cardinals and 49ers. I think this division is fantastic. It's very exciting. Deebo Samuel's having a heck of a year for San Francisco. I just want to see, are the Cardinals going to again prove themselves against a divisional opponent that's going to be really tough? Or are they going to let that one slip? This is the 49ers want to keep themselves in a position to make the playoffs. Right now, they obviously have two teams that are pretty far stretch ahead of them. So we really, it's going to come down to whether how badly they want it, I guess, is what you'll have to say. Right now they have an opportunity with Russell Wilson. I believe he's not playing this weekend. I know he got his pin removed, I believe. So there's a slight chance, but we'll just have to see. Either way, it's a lesser version. Their next game is, of course, the 14th against the Packers. So obviously by then he should be good, but you're still dealing with an injured version of Russell Wilson. So I'm really interested to see if the 49ers can try to create a little bit of a gap there with the Seahawks. Now, I am going to get into the Chiefs stuff. I will try not to drag this thing out too long or anything like that, but I think there's a serious note, and this isn't just the Chiefs. That year to year we do this, right? Teams hit a wall, they fall off a cliff. We project them really high, they fall off, and we just have to talk about it. You just have to, whether you want to or not. And at the end of the day, do I really want to tell you how I exactly feel about the Chiefs? Probably not, because it kind of disgusts me a little bit personally on a fan level. But on the realist level, it has to be done. The Chiefs, at this point in time, and what I saw from them against the Giants on Monday Night Football, did nothing, zero, to give me any sort of positivity on offense. Okay. Now I say offense for a reason, right? At the end of the day, the defense has always been a struggle. But if you watch closely, the combination of Willie Gay Jr. and Nick Bolton at linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs is a scary tandem, especially if you plan to run the ball. So far this season, that combo was the best at shutting down Derrick Henry this year. Held him under 100 yards rushing, for reference, by the way. It's not something a lot of guys can do, or a lot of teams collectively can do, rather. So keep that in mind. Now the secondary is worrisome, right? We've heard a ton of garbage from Tyrann Mathieu over the last couple weeks with them losing. He lashes out at fans, criticizes the fan base, all the while being in a contract year, right? That maybe not the way to go. I'm not trying to give the man contract advice or anything. I mean, he can do whatever he wants. But at the end of the day, if you are up for a contract and you're wanting money, perhaps you shouldn't be dogging on the fan base and the team itself when you're fighting for a check. You know what I mean? I understand, yes, you could theoretically get paid elsewhere. That's all well and good, but this team, especially going into this year, believe that they were Super Bowl contenders, right? So if you truly believe that you are Super Bowl contenders, then bailing on that team and going to a team that more than likely, unless you're going to, the Packers or the Rams or the Bucks, is not going to be as likely to be able to get to a Super Bowl as Kansas City Chiefs. Now, again, I say all that to say that offense is a disaster. Mahomes this year, yes, I understand. I believe he's got 19 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. The 10 interceptions through 8 weeks is disturbing. Very, very disturbing. I don't care what your touchdowns look like. If you are leading the league in interceptions, I really don't care. But the reality of this thing is Mahomes is not seeing the field the same way. He's looking to duck, he's looking to run, he's looking to move constantly. And when you have a guy that has probably the best all-around arm talent this league has ever seen, and he wants to run, and he's not even a designated runner, it's a problem. And what that tells me is he does not trust the things going on around him. He does not trust the offensive line. He does not trust his running backs who are pass protecting. He does not trust his weapons to get open. Now, there's a valid reason for this because a lot of times they're not. But if you watch the Giants against very much inferior talent, by the way, there were so many cases where a Tyreek Hill was wide open on a slant or on a drag, where Travis Kelce was wide open on an out route in the end zone. He tries to tuck and run instead of flipping it out to him and just trusting that he's going to get the ball. Now, I understand there's reasons for that. Again, as I highlighted, they're not always open, right? They're not always doing what they should be doing. I'm not going to fault him entirely. There's a huge part of this: Travis Kelce dropping balls, Tyreek having balls bounce off his hands into defenders, Josh Gordon letting a pass bobble right off his chest and hit a guy in the hands running the other direction. I get all this. Okay. I understand this. And if I were in his shoes, I'm sure I would probably feel very similarly. But again, this comes down to, if you're going to be the best in the league, which is something that he is more than capable of being, and he has been for several years to date, if you are going to maintain that status and you're going to continue to wear that on your sleeve, you have to be able to understand and feel the game better. And you can't let the things in the back of your mind control your movements, your decisions on the field. The reality is that he is bailing on pockets that are 100% perfectly intact. The interior of his offensive line is the best in the league by far. And while I understand that there are some lapses in his tackle play, it's not like it's every snap. Yes, I get it. Orlando Brown traded for a first-round pick. It's a good thing they don't currently have him on a contract because he needs to get better playing left tackle. 100%. Now, on that note, the Chiefs may have gotten rid of a first-round pick for him, but if he does not get better, you can't let that dangle in the back of your mind and say, well, now we have to re-sign him. That's not how this works. If he doesn't play well at left tackle, you either play him at right tackle or you say, sorry, see you later. That's how that works. And they have kind of a rotation at right tackle right now between Mike Remmers and Lucas Niang. I think they're both fine. You know, they're not Mitchell Schwartz. They're not Mr. Schwartz. They're not prime future Hall of Fame Mitchell Schwartz, but they are decent. Okay. So there's, you can't have everything. You know, you have a fantastic interior. They're a cheap interior. I say that Joe Tooney is one of the highest paid guards in the league, but really your center and left and right guard are you're paying them pennies. So the thing is that there's a combination of, again, this is Mahomes bailing on things, not using his vision, not using he's putting too much reliance in his legs and in his arm to just make things happen. He's throwing balls late because he's second guessing. Part of this too does have to fall on Andy Reid. Andy Reid takes credit for everything. That's just his MO. He does that every single week. But it is true in this case, right? Spagnuolo is 100% at fault for some of the shortcomings that the defense has seen to this point. Quite a few of them, in my opinion. But Reid is now, of course, he needs to take blame for what's happening offensively. They're not as effective. We saw against the Giants, they ran quite a bit more, especially in the first half. You saw a lot of Derek Gore, a dude that a lot of Kansas City Chiefs fans really loved coming out of camp. But they chose not to keep him as a fourth running back. He came back obviously due to Clyde's injury. But again, for me, he had a fantastic first half. Then you get into the second half, Andy Reid gets stuck on passing and forgets completely about it. It just doesn't make any sense. And then we go to Darrell Williams, which is fine, but Darrell Williams had a less productive time as the prime running back than Derek Gore in this game. And I think there's a point when coaches say we have to ride with the hot hand, right? That there's a reason why they say that, because it's true. You ride the hot hand until it cools down. That's what it is. So I have to come back to when you run up the ball effectively and then you just kind of forget, you just let it dangle from behind, and you just stop running the ball. Like I can't put that then on the players. They're not calling the plays. I have to put that on Andy Reid for completely failing to put the players in the best position possible. When they were running the ball, the offense was clicking. It was effective. It was consistent. Was it always pretty? No. But this is the time of year, especially at this point when Mahomes is second guessing himself, when he is he's not having a lot of faith in himself, where you have to bring out the Alex Smith playbook and you have to say, all right, this isn't going to be real hot and sexy, okay? But it's going to be productive. We're going to win games this way. Because they've done it before. If you're telling me that you can't win with Mahomes and an Alex Smith type of offense, but you could with Alex Smith, I don't really know what we're talking about. The potential for Mahomes, the arm, the big playability is so much higher. But right now, the big players are not working. So cut down on the big plays, bring the offense back to a consistent, stable state, and work those in as you go. But don't let that be like the end-all be-all for you trying to win a game. That's just not going to work. So at the end of the day, with the record that they have right now, right, yes, I understand they're 4-4. They got back to even. They have the worst possible schedule moving forward. It's not even funny how bad this is going to be. Obviously, you get the Packers, and you have the Raiders, and you have the Cowboys. Then you as we dive into December, Broncos, Raiders, Chargers, Steelers, Bengals. I mean, by the end, I mean you're playing teams that are all playoff caliber teams the whole rest of the way. I understand maybe the Broncos miss it. Whatever. Right now they have the same record as the Broncos. I can't give Kansas City the benefit of the doubt for anything. And realistically, especially the next 3 games before you see the Broncos the first time, those are all 3 teams that will be winning their divisions more than likely this year. You got we'll see with the Raiders, right? But the Raiders and the Chargers are kind of up top. We'll see which one, but they have a legitimate chance at winning the AFC West. Right. So we have the Packers obviously going to win their division. The Raiders are in play there. And the Cowboys are without a doubt winning the NFC East. 2 of those 3 teams, by the way, are Super Bowl contending teams currently. That being the Packers and the Cowboys. 2 teams, if you did make it to the Super Bowl, you might see one of them. So this is gut check time. It's no longer a game. You lose 2 of these games, and I'm saying the Chiefs aren't making the playoffs. That is what I'm saying. Because it does not get easier. Divisional, because then all you have is divisional games and a couple of other teams really vying for a playoff spot, if not a chance to win their division. So at the end of the day, this is where I'm saying, because if you're asking me to be a betting person, which again, never take betting advice from me. If you are asking me to bet on anything, I am betting that they lose 2 or more of these next 3 games. And that kicks them out of the playoff picture, essentially. Because if they lose to the Raiders, that's a tiebreaker again and gone. And I think, again, the AFC West is going to be down to the Raiders and the Chargers anyway. So if you lose to the Raiders, I think that pretty much puts you in the coffin, because then next you go to the Chargers, and if you don't beat the excuse me, if you can't beat the Raiders either of the two times before you see the Chargers in LA, you're done. You know, it's very simple. It's very, very simple. I understand right now the Chiefs technically have the most points for in that division, but they also have a drastically bad points against too. So again, the balance here is a very big concern. And again, the points for have been going down. You know, the last 2 weeks, you've scored 23 points over the course of the last 2 weeks, and those were against the Titans and the Giants, two teams that do not have overly fantastic defenses. So you got to figure it out now. You know, you either figure it out and you pull out a drastic win over the Packers, or good luck to you, because I don't really know that you beat the Raiders or the Cowboys in that case. I will give them a chance to beat the Packers and surprise that team. I really will. I would not bet on that. I would not bank on that at all. But with that, I appreciate you all for tuning in and giving this a listen, giving it a watch. This is, of course, weekly live at 8 p.m. Central on the Halftime app. Afterward, the recording, of course, will be made available on borderfuelsports.com. Thanks again, and catch you all next week.